So in the world of high fantasy, there's really only two options when it comes to a satisfying conclusion. You've got your classic, and then whatever this was. Today we're gonna find out which one NERF's doing. So as you can tell from the promotional packaging and the non-retail nature of this assignment, this is sent to us for free from Hasbro so that we can check it out and convince you to chalk up $120 reduce for the $130 MSRP over on Amazon's pre-order. Link in description box below. Disclaimer for the FCC away! All right, so inside of our spicy promotional packaging for the NERF Pro X, we see that Hasbro is going with the Stryfe to debut, except they're not, right? It's like half a Stryfe. It's a Stryfe with a lot of community embellishments that we've been doing for the better part of 7 or 8 years now. But inside, the most exciting thing that they're leading with is actually not even in the box just yet. First off, NERF has decided that they're going to join the half-dart ammo game, and that is pretty sweet. So this is the first ever NERF Pro 1/2 length dart. This is particularly interesting because they're using hobby nomenclature, and the only reason that they are using hobby nomenclature is that, you know, about 5 years ago, Hasbro hired a couple of hobbyists, and this is the project that they've been pushing over the finish line for quite some time now. But not satisfied with bringing in hobby designers, they've brought in a hobby advocate. So you can see here we've got Luke's logo over at Out of Darts, letting us know that he will be involved in the marketing or sharing or dissemination of information as far as the flywheeler inside goes. Now, once we get all of that pomp away, and it is handsome product packaging, really taking a page out of Zuru's book there, we have the Stryfe Pro X. So this is the Stryfe X NERF Pro 30 half-length darts. Pro performance. The exclamation point is before the thing. Rechargeable LiPo battery, semi-auto. And then you can see the blaster itself. And before we even take it out of the package, just looking at this promo shot here, we can tell unequivocally that this is hobby inspired. We've got an expanded motor, an expanded battery tray, although I think this is a proprietary LiPo battery trapped inside what looks to be an expanded kind of battery tray for the Stryfe. And then down here, very subtly, you've got this like half-length mag that still fits in the Stryfe ecosystem. So they didn't shrink the blaster, they just put a half-length adapter in it perpetually. Other things will become more apparent, like the absence of certain things on the platform as well as the inclusion of others, but we'll get into more of that later. Pretty cool that they're doubling the darts. We've got 30 half-length darts, everything you need to play, NERF Pro Stryfe, rechargeable battery, USB charging cable, 15 dart magazine, 30 half-length darts, protective eyewear, and instructions. All right, so there we are. Here is the blaster in all of its $130 glory. We have the NERF Pro Stryfe X, Hasbro's first ever entry into the Pro category. And ultimately, no matter how we feel about this specific blaster independently, this is a good thing. First off, woo, standard, incredibly cheap eye protection. Presumably this is rated in some form or fashion, but it has absolutely no branding. It doesn't say NERF, it doesn't say Pro, and you know, it's actually, you know, I really genuinely, I thought it would snap. So this is better than the old stuff. It has a real nose bridge on it, which isn't terrible, but these are, you're better off just wearing sunnies. You should absolutely be wearing eye protection, as this does theoretically shoot up to 150 FPS. Now, including the eyewear is something that a lot of the Pro category blasters have started doing. I just wish that everybody would do a little bit better. The difference between nice branded eyewear and whatever that is like genuinely 2.5 cents at scale. So come on, give me some sort of molding, some sort of deco, print it on if you have to. But here is the blaster itself. As advertised, you get 30 darts, 1 magazine, the blaster itself, an itty bitty USB charging cable, and this, which is both battery and tray all in one. It has 6 different connectors that connect into these pins down here. Relatively low gauge connectors, just kind of interesting. Looks like snaps in like so. We've charged this fully overnight, and then to release it, you're gonna pull this out, down and out. Button and switch. So it's very secure once it's installed, but it does hang off the edge quite a... Hey, that's pretty good.
Nice.
All right, so before we go much further, let's cover the blaster tip to tail. We have no in-strike barrel attachment. Why would that be if not to prevent people from using aftermarket accessories and body kits on this? Why would you take a mold for something that's a desirable feature and intentionally remove it from your product? It also makes it seem less Stryfe-esque. It's just kind of strange. Then we have a rail down here, which is neither in-strike rail nor is it pick rail from the looks of it. It's very interesting, but we have a new proprietary rail down here, and that's mimicked up in the back. Here it says eyewear required, which is nice that they're constantly reminding you, like as you're staring down the blaster, hey, I should put something on. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same mold that they included in their gel blasters, you know, the other pro category entrant that Hasbro did. Just a little interesting. As we kind of go back here, we do have an in-strike attachment point stock. I'm glad that that persisted. And then you come down into the molding, and while the knurling is remaining the same, something interesting is that they've moved the bandolier attachment point down here and added kind of a heel. So there's three major hobby mod elements to this blaster that are usually present in like a tier 1 or tier 0 Stryfe build that Hasbro's just decided to include by default. First off, this motor cover has been expanded to undoubtedly house 132 or 180 size motors. I'm not inside the blaster yet, so I can't stay. This is reminiscent of how we would fit LiPo batteries into the existing battery tray by printing an expanded cover around them. What's interesting there is that given how much battery this has, there's no reason it wouldn't have fit in a normal tray setup. This could have been a little less obtuse. It sticks very far out of the shell. We were doing this with much thinner profiles in the hobby, and the hobbyists working on this blaster certainly knew that. Here we have some sort of switch. That's our lock, unlock in front of our control switch, and that seems to mechanically turn off the trigger and then electronically turn off the rev switch. You have a standard Stryfe-esque rev switch and trigger combo here for semi-auto performance. And then you have the heel down here, making the grip far more comfortable for size large hands. I think that that's excellent. This looks like it would be an in-strike magwell, but when you come in here, you can see that it is a magwell with a single point in here. So this is not the proverbial multi-magwell we've come to talk about, which means I doubt this will take katanas, but that said, NERF has never been one to be cross-compatible when monopolizing will do. So while this does appear to be Talon geometry, we'll have to wait and see if it is Talon compatible. But this is their magazine, and something interesting is that while we've been bragging about the quality of the Zuru magazines and the Dart Zone magazines, finally getting up to snuff with worker magazines, this feels like the cheapest by far. It's just very interesting. It's a weird step down. The blaster itself feels like regular Hasbro grade quality plastic, but the magazine itself feels like something like Jet would have been producing years and years ago. Just a little interesting there. This paddle is thin, but seems to be getting the job done. And again, there's only one notch in here. So while the magazine's quality leaves a little bit to be desired, kind of cheap, kind of flimsy, definitely a little squishy, hopefully it is compatible with other magazines. I have a Zuru Pro Mag here, the X-Shot Pro from a long shot. And that's no go. How about this Dart Zone Max? These are pretty nice. Come on. All right, I have one of Luke's fiberglass mags, and that fits. Interesting. And then we have the classic worker mag here, and that is a tight fit. That's never gonna gravity drop, but that does fit. So Luke mags, yes. Worker mags, kind of. Dart Zone mags, no. X-Shot mags, no. Well, if that's not perfect from Hasbro's perspective, I don't know what is. Up top, we have the classic jam door, which does not have its electronic safety installed. It can be open and still rev. That's just of note. I don't think that safety features are necessary in a blaster that comes with a 14 and up warning, especially one that has warnings all over the blaster and comes with eye protection. You should kind of know what you're getting yourself into. However, none of that matters if it doesn't perform. Now, the interesting thing, and I don't know if it'll be obvious through my camera there, maybe you guys will be able to, there we go. I'm sure that was a little spooky coming through your phone screen, but these are concave wheels, so the wheels have concavity. And the really interesting thing, Phil, is that the cage geometry inside this blaster appears to be an injection molded open flywheel project cage. We haven't seen open flywheel projects since, you know, they Hobby drama is a lot of fun. We haven't seen Open Flywheel Project cages by that name in a very long time, so it's very exciting to see them live on through Phil's work with the mothership. I think that, if nothing else, is a fascinating love letter to the hobby, and it's really, really cool that he was able to push some of his original geometry through into production. Very, very cool. Congrats, Phil. I guess the only other thing to talk about aesthetically is that this is like either AccuStrike in its aesthetic, or you could go old school and say it's Gear Up. The one thing it isn't is comprehensive. For a premium product that says Pro on it, there is a standard of expectation that we'd have deco and design, industrial design kind of thoughtfully in the product. Not only is there no paint on the other side of the blaster, we also have the usual run amok of warning labels and what have you. The blaster could be overall a lot prettier. These are hobby necessities that were designed with 3D printers and, you know, additive manufacturing years ago, like years ago. And they were asymmetrical because the Stryfe was always a little asymmetrical, but one of the nice things about the Stryfe was its relatively low profile. Now we have a battery and our center of gravity on this thing is very kind of floppy. Now, if you're right-handed, it'll feel okay because it's gonna pull this way and you'll pull this way naturally. If you're left-handed, I think it feels a little weird having nothing on your dominant side while your entire kind of weight distribution pulls this way. Regardless of that, that's just like a fun kind of designer quirk. I think that this was a perfect opportunity to take the things that make the Stryfe amazing, which is reliable semi-auto, compact form factor, modular barrel and stock attachment points with rails everywhere that you want them, in the most compact thing possible, and build it into something symmetrical that takes advantage of, you know, mass product sourcing and injection molding machines, and of course a distribution network that makes a lot of hobby companies look tiny by comparison. But if you were going to kind of like evoke this image of like, you want what a cool YouTuber would build in 2017, then to that effect, I think that the Stryfe X is doing a phenomenal job. It definitely looks like this is a hobbyist modified Stryfe. I've done hundreds of these myself with various different motor and battery tray options, and I think that in that way, given that it's largely designed by hobbyists and that it's intended to be purchased by aspiring hobbyists, it's evoking the right sort of vibes. However, I think that we missed the mark on designing something that was symmetrical and elegant in its simplicity, because now it looks Frankenstrifed. Enough gabbing, let's get to some operation. That feels really good. Grouping is tight at a close range. The AccuStrike darts are obviously very good for flywheels. They have a large head. One thing worth noting is that these darts are not going to be functional or at least reliable in your average breech system blaster. If Hasbro's design was to be proprietary in as many capacities as possible, you're not going to be able to use your NERF Pro darts in something like your Zuru Longshot or your DZP Mark 15, just because these are clearly designed with electronic blasters in mind. And if priced appropriately, I think that they'd be a fine option for electronic blasters, just not if you intend to share magazines with your Springer teammates. Speaking of teammates, they're probably going to be using worker mags. Let's see how this does with some Gen 2 darts. And not bad. While I will lament the ability to grav drop my mags, I think that overall a pretty stellar performance in terms of dart compatibility. I look forward to testing it with some others. Let's take some of the Zuru darts. I think that those are actually pretty good. We'll throw the Zuru darts in the Luke mag, throw a few of those down. You get a very crisp pop out of those. I think that all that's left to do is put it over the chronograph and give you guys some final thoughts, because this could be an hour-and-a-half long video. And that's just too long to talk about something that I haven't gotten the chance to take to a war yet. I want you to know, Internet, that this is too important to do like this if it weren't for the fact that in about 2 hours I have to be on a plane to Aaron Esser's bachelor party. Anyway, we are out here in 87% humidity. It's 96, feels like 105. Oh no. 145, 41, 48, 40, 53, 63, 60, 55. Oh no. Why? Worker darts. Those did okay. X-shot darts. All right, mid 150s to the other thing. Grace, take the chronograph. We're gonna do a few downrange shots. Here we go. Tight grouping, level shot, 75 feet, not bad. Inside now. Why? Why, Florida? All right, so in conclusion, this thing is really cool. And it would be really amazing if it was more priced in line with offerings around it. Like the fact that we have competition grade springers coming in at $30 and $50 respectively, and there is a feature-rich competitive offering with better ergonomics, more features, full auto select fire 4. Is it almost half the price? 80 versus 130, almost half the price. Is pretty unbelievable. That said, this is a clean, well-designed interior. The fact that it's getting 150 to 160 FPS, the groupings being tight, the shots being consistent, the semi-auto being the best part of the Stryfe, like the reliable mechanical semi-auto feature, is quite nice. This thing is a powerhouse, and if it was coming out at like 60 bucks, I think it would be a slam dunk, and I really look forward to seeing it on sale. I think that more important than this blaster itself is just it existing. The fact that Hasbro has finally been pressured into a position where they have to acknowledge competitive play. They have to start producing things for that ecosystem. And they've even gone and designed a game type that they've at least trademarked and released out there so that it's going to be a sporting aspect to a blaster tag adjacent thing. Is really, really exciting. I know that there's, talks of them doing some sort of tournament. If they do a tournament, I can only hope and pray that it is a real legitimate tournament. As in the past, we've gotten commercials disguised as tournaments. I'd really like a tournament that serves as a commercial. I think that would be a fantastic way to acknowledge the hobby origins of this blaster. But at 130, I can tell you that if you're uncomfortable with lipos, if you're uncomfortable with modifications, like I think that this is a solid way to enter into that world. It's a very reasonable price. The cage is solid, the geometry is good, the grouping is tight. Like I said, I think this is an exciting blaster under the hood, and I'm excited to take it apart. Overall, it just speaks volumes to where the hobby and the industry are right now, and it is an exciting time to be a foam flinger in any category, Nerfer especially. I'm excited to see where they go from this. I think that they've really put themselves in a box by using the AccuStrike dart tip. Now, I know that they did this because it's a patent-protected geometry, but this is not going to be as ideal in springers, and if they want to get the kind of springer performance that the competitors are getting, they're going to have to acknowledge some sort of breach system, and the AccuStrike tip is just going to be a little challenging. So, is it Aragorn? Is it Daenerys? It's too soon to tell, right? It's either going to have it's the beginning of a terrific legacy, or it's an afterthought that they took to market because they already had most of the mold. We won't know until we see what the follow-up punches, but for right now, I think that my takeaways are, would love to see legitimate sport coming from the mothership, would love to see an iteration on this in the form of, a more feature-rich environment, and it would be great if they could bring their prices more in line with the market. I mean, frankly, like from a production standpoint, the only reason this is priced the way that it is because it says NERF on it. Overall, there's a lot of quality in the blaster itself. The magazines and the darts leave a little bit to be desired, but fortunately, those are the easiest things to grab supplementary and aftermarket products for without any modification for the first time ever, which is pretty exciting in and of itself. And I think that it's worth mentioning that I am genuinely grateful to Hasbro for sending this early sample out for me to check out. Huge thank you to Luke for advocating for it as the hobby's last remaining OG envoy. It's very flattering that they took the time to do that, and I've no doubt that I will be the most critical of the original kind of batch of reviewers for the Stryfe X from NERF Pro. And while I think that it's important and there's a lot of merit to having that voice out there, especially so that consumers can make a complete and informed decision, I also understand that from a brand perspective, that's a huge liability. So again, a tip of the hat, serious respect to the mothership for sending one over. I look forward to getting it under my workbench and just kind of finding out all the goodies that you guys have hidden inside. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to pick one of these up, because again, I do think that the blaster has terrific merit, there will be an Amazon affiliate link down in the description box below. I really appreciate your time, and clicking through there helps you support the channel as well. I'm off to go watch my boy get married. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Much love. Blast on. Drac out.